Do you ever use your acting and accents to help you in everyday life? I mean, have you discovered the potency of certain accents for certain situations? Can you give us some examples? Yes, I have before. I don't tend to anymore, just because you never know and someone has seen your stuff. But I mean, I certainly use them as an actor all the time, but I think, yeah, in everyday life, I used to, and I sometimes still do, you know, when I'm particularly clothing shopping, I'll be British, I'll be English, because you get better service in the US, in my experience. So that will be my shortest answer yet. There are a lot of questions. Okay, do you find Amy, yes I do, here she is, that your understanding of voice and attention to detail that accent mastery requires helps you to read people in interesting ways? Okay, that my understanding of voice and attention to detail helps me read people in interesting ways. Yeah. I've spent a lot of time, and continue to, peeling back the layers that keep me thinking I can only be a certain way. And I'm still doing it. I'm still finding them. But all of those, you know, when we're born, when we're teeny, we aren't taught how to learn. We just absorb, we taste, we try things on, and it's fun. We don't really have the same boundaries of outside and inside. We learn those and we pick those up and we see what's effective to get us what we need to help us survive and be included, and all of those things are included in survival when we're little because we can't feed ourselves. So as we learn those things and we hear things and we absorb, we start deciding what we're allowed to be and what we will allow ourselves to be, who we allow ourselves to be, how we sound, how we look, what we wear, all of those things. This is me, that is not me. And there's nothing wrong with that. You certainly can. But if you want to do something that other people don't do, you have to be willing to be weird. Fortunately, I am willing to be totally, inexplicably, very, very weird. And like, I will walk down, I would go do Runyon, we say do Runyon, you know, go for a hike in the Hollywood Hills, with my script, working my lines so that I get that extra time in and get the exercise I know I need and get the fresh air and feel it differently in my body. Because I was, you know, willing to go to Australia and give myself permission to blend in, I got to really feel what that was like 100% and get to be somebody who just was perceived as Australian, because I allowed myself to be perceived as Australian, and Kiwi as well when I lived in New Zealand. So all of that, I particularly, you know, I do coach all sorts of things in between gigs, and I'm able to see for people some of the key ways that they are holding energy, holding tension, not allowing a full spectrum voice or not allowing themselves to be certain ways. And so if they come to me and ask for it, I can certainly help open those doors, open those layers back up. Yeah. And then it's just continuing to recognize that I don't know everything. And it's not done in a way that's like, oh, they blah, 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 they blah, blah, blah. But it is sometimes hard to turn off when I see somebody's whole potential in certain ways that they're being blocked, which I'm still working on my own too. That's the long answer. These are all long answers, but they're very thorough questions. Yeah. Oh God, I could talk for an hour on any one of these things. Okay, in one of your accent clips, you were interviewing people in Nashville with various accents. Jack White makes a special guest appearance. That was actually his video that I made a guest appearance in. Can you explain more about your encounter and recording work with Jack? Yeah, he's phenomenal human being and artist, and he had emailed me from his personal email that I was like, what? Back when 21 Accents, my video 21 Accents was going around virally. And he just has always been fascinated with accents and called me up and said, hey, I'd love to bring you out to my place in Nashville. I'm doing this spoken word series. I've got Conan O'Brien doing one, and would you be interested? I was like, yes! I'm a long admirer of his art and integrity as an artist, and just the way that he's so his own person and own brand, and really supportive of so many artists. So I flew to Nashville. They flew me to Nashville, and I went in, and he really didn't want to plan the record. He didn't want to plan what we were gonna do. So okay. And he has this beautiful studio, and he said, okay, I have a newspaper. Why don't you just read this article in a bunch of different accents? And I get that a lot. Do this in a bunch of different accents. And what people don't realize is that there are only certain sounds that will sell an accent. When I did 21 Accents, that video, I set certain things up next to each other because I knew the juxtaposition would help you understand what was what. And I knew that if I didn't say 5, 6, 7, if I didn't use those vowels in my Kiwi accent, you wouldn't really be able to hear the difference between Kiwi accent and an Australian accent. Because there's some similarities and there is some really particular differences. So I was like, give me 10 minutes and I'll just look and see what accent needs to be where and how to work that out. So we did that. And then he set up these 2 gorgeous mics and said, do something. And then, okay. And I improvised a conversation with myself, as I call it, going back and forth between these 2 mics. And then we did an interview not an interview, just a talk, which was really fun. So that was the record experience. And then he had a ton of different ideas for the cover. And he was, at one point we were going to do, I can't remember what it's called, but you know that stuff that you can it's like plastic and there are these little triangles on it basically, or little prisms. And when you look this way, it looks like one picture. And then when you look at it this way, it looks like another picture. Initially we were going to maybe do that. And so we did this whole photo shoot with me lined up in the same place with different wigs and outfits and different facial expressions and stuff. And he ended up using 30 and doing 30 different covers. They're on thirdmanrecords.com if you want to check it out. And then that video, he wanted to do a video where we just go out and interview random people in Nashville, or where I go out and interview random people in Nashville. So we went out, and because he's Jack White, people were coming up and like, what is going on? And he's so gracious, doing selfies with people and signing autographs and all that. But he wasn't planning to be in the video, but because there are all these honky tonks everywhere, you go by and there's just a different band in every 4 feet of space. I guess somebody had gone in to see if this guitarist wanted to, he came out, like, what's going on? And so I just interviewed him, and he's doing this guitar solo as he's answering questions about accents. And then Jack just goes, here, I'll play this, you talk to her. So that was the guest appearance. But it was all his idea. It was very fun. Okay, for actors or those wanting to improve on their acting skills or command of voice, can you tell our viewers a bit more about your services at 21 Accents? So we have several coaches at 21 Accents. I drop in when I can and do things, but Alex Brown is a phenomenal coach. Kate, I'm blanking on her name, Kate, who I love. Oh my gosh. Anyway, Kate is phenomenal, and Ian teaches voiceover. So they both teach all the accents at their fingertips. So they're both certified, I guess, in the techniques that I developed and that they've contributed to as well for learning accents. You can go to 21 Accents, the 21 Accents YouTube channel, and learn more there. And then I just teach anything at my disposal. So I'll coach accents, acting, helping people open up things. Sometimes it ends up just being therapy. Yeah, so I do that when I can. Okay. And it's 21accents.com. Okay, he says, the peace dimension, as expressed in my book and my interviews, goes beyond meditation. It's an energetic place in the present, a place of understanding, potential, and tolerance that I hope in 2020 more and more people will connect with and express. I believe that too. Amy, what does the peace dimension symbolize to you? Well, having not read the book yet, but I would love to, what I understand from your explanations, that this is a state of consciousness, or what I would call just a perspective. We can dilate and focus our perspective, our consciousness, our awareness on any perspective. So when I am tuned into the frequencies, the awareness of the truth that is peace, that is equality, because there's no, we're the ones who decided that value was a thing. So we can kind of undecide that, and just everything becomes perfect as it is, divine as it is. And that's kind of an interesting concept to wrap our minds around. But, we invented these words and placed them as layers upon what we perceive in our reality. So we can just the same, we can peel them all back and just let it be this fascinating soup we're watching or experiencing. So yes, I believe that time is also one of those things that we constructed so that we could have a context with which we can share experiences. It's very helpful for certain things, but it's not necessarily any more true than the truth that there is no time. Understanding potential and tolerance. Yes, infinite potential exists, I believe. And I, in my experience and with my friends and circles that I've Zoomed with, a lot of people are using this time to really explore, do that self-exploratory work and meditate more, or do whatever practice feels resonant to peel back the layers, to clear the dross, the old pain that's been carried down and judgments that have been carried down, and to really lean into trusting this universe, or whatever, if God is a word that works for you, love is a word that works for you, the force, and looking at how we can be living examples examples is kind of odd, but how we can just live in that reality. I think that's happening more and more, certainly for me as well. And it's a yummy, yummy place to live. So, what does it symbolize to me? That's what it symbolizes, that awareness that is really unified in both hemispheres of the brain. It's unified in the awareness that we are all connected and equal, and that we are really one consciousness, choosing to work with the left brain so that we can isolate our experiences and our perceptions. That it's both of those together, so that we have the ability to communicate in whatever layers and frequency we need to in the moment, but that we don't lose sight of that larger picture, that we do all of those in a holistic or holographic, some would say, awareness. That's a mouthful. There are a lot of people out there right now feeling quite concerned and maybe even scared by the events that have taken place this year. Are there any words of encouragement or any insights you would like to share at this moment? Yes. Something that helps me is to see experience, any experience, all experiences. I'm going to take a sip of water and then I will get back to this because it might take a moment. Okay. All experiences as a whole, multidimensional, but we'll speak in 3 dimensions, 3-dimensional experience. So many of you know, if you've watched my videos, that I had a really deep, dark time of depression when in 2020. All right, sorry, 2020 is now 2012. 2012. And that experience, how I was perceiving life at that time, how I was perceiving myself at that time, was so dense that it was like I was seeing through a fog of hatred for myself. And I was so cruel, and everything hurt. You know, seeing somebody doing what they love hurt because I felt like I wasn't doing what I loved. And just trying to comprehend people who had a seemingly normal life, it hurt. Like, how is this possible? And I have a whole video about that. But to be in, you know, that, the way I see it, that was a place, that was like the dark side of the moon. So to the extent that I allowed myself to go in there, to the extent that after I was coming out of that I allowed myself to really look at that, feel all of those parts, all of those things that were coming up but that were stuck, that I couldn't let myself feel because I was scared. And so I was in this state of fullness, of dense feeling that I wasn't allowing to simply be felt and come through and be released. So I had to go through very methodically and look at all of those things and make amends for things that, you know, were this huge mountain in my head, and to other people maybe had never even registered, or that had, and that needed to be addressed, you know? So anyway, from this, like the darkest point of the moon, the darkest, densest part, to then experience coming around out of that, then I can go back. I can be there if I need to be there for a character, if I need to be there for a book or an interview. I can go into there without fear because I understand. I've been there. I understand all of those things. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I've looked at all of that. And that created the depth to which I went, created the capacity for its reciprocation, for that amount of light and joy and lightness of being and empowerment in myself and comfort being myself. So to the extent to which I go into the uncomfortable is the extent to which I'm able to be comfortable being more and more of myself, you know, allowing for the potentiality of me being all of, you know, the opposite of that and every permutation in between. So if I had never gone in there, my experience would be this big. Nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But if I'm willing to go into some deep excavation places, then I can have this larger place. So if you are in a dark, dense place right now, it will get better. And this is not an isolated reality. This is one perspective in an infinitely potential reality. And if you really surrender to it and go into it and look at it, by surrender to it, I don't mean kill yourself, because that won't stop it. I believe that there are story threads that come to us that are not contained only in one life, that come to us from other lives. And in my experience in this life, this is a time when all kinds of stuff from other lives has been coming back up to be dealt with. I've cried probably more tears in this life than I in many, many lives of the past, because they just needed to be felt and experienced and done with. Is how I see it. Feel free to take any of this or leave any of this. So yeah, this is a doozy. And we can look at it as, wow, okay, we're cleaning some closets. We're cleaning some closets about race in our world right now. We're cleaning some closets about how we take sovereignty and how we care for others by wearing a mask. There's a lot of layers that we have the opportunity to get into and cleanse and clear and understand. And so it's a potent time. It's a really potent time. That's what I call it. And then the language, how you talk about it, how you think about it, is really important, because if you're talking about it like it's this awful thing to do away with, then it might not help you as much as if you take it as an opportunity to really look at, wow, okay, how does fear register in my body? How is that affecting me right now? Is that a frequency I want to live in? What can I do to listen to what that fear is telling me? To honor if there are actions that I need to take? To live with it being okay for fear to talk to me sometimes, and it being okay for that to not stop me from doing what I feel called to do. It's okay to have both of those voices. They don't need to drive. I could talk forever on any of these things. Okay, great. Ooh, I think this is the last one. Well, now that you've done this interview, you have earned yourself a place as a Peace Dimension Intergalactic Ambassador. I love it. I get a badge. Congratulations. You may get occasional Peace Dimension tips on how to develop your skills as an ambassador. A tacky badge, and occasional invites for you and your husband. Oh, I'm not married, but yay, my beloved Nippon, to Peace Dimension meetups and cocktails on Zoom. How cute! I'm sure Nippon would love that. Do you think you would be a responsible ambassador? Well, I will do my best to be a responsible ambassador. I love that. How sweet! I love that this is the way that Ryan has chosen to be a force of love and light in the world, a source of awareness and empowerment and coming together. That's really beautiful. The Peace Dimension, I'll put the link in here. Do I think I will be a responsible ambassador? I will absolutely do my best. Amy, I want to say thank you for not just for doing this interview, but thank you for sharing so generously from the heart your work and talents. To me, that remains one of the finest ways to express the Peace Dimension. Wishing you joy and success. Thank you, Ryan. Wishing you joy and success too. And to you, you made it all the way through this very long video. I wish you, I envision complete fulfillment for you. Peace in your heart and mind and body. Here we are together. We are connected.
Please. At least wait for the doctor. They said he'd be here.
Don't you think that women want to make these things different just as much as men do?